Let me ask you a question. How much do you really know about cholesterol? Where does it come from? How does it impact your health? Should you be afraid of it? I know we've all grown up with those Cheerios commercials that are like, heart healthy. What does that even mean? I know there's always been a bit of mystery around it, so that's why I'm making this video. I want to help demystify what cholesterol is. A lot of people I know are still afraid to have egg yolks or think that they're doomed because they have a family history of high cholesterol. My goal with this video is to show you everything out there in regards to cholesterol so you can make better educated decisions in your everyday life. Quick disclaimer, I'm not a medical professional, so if you do have a pre-existing condition, consult your doctor because a lot of this applies to just the general public and not people with specific needs. So let's uncover cholesterol. So cholesterol is a waxy-like substance found in every cell of your body. It's a lipid and your body uses it for all kinds of functions, from building cell membranes and making hormones like estrogen and testosterone. It also creates bile acids in the liver, which aid in digestion. And of course, you can't forget vitamin D. Not vitamin D2, more like the D3. D2 has to do more with mushrooms and fungi. That'll be another video. So when your skin is exposed to UVB rays, a chemical reaction occurs, and the heat from the sun converts a form of cholesterol in your skin into pre-vitamin D3. It's kind of a long process, but there's a chemical reaction that happens with the cholesterol in your skin and the UVB rays from the sun. Along with the heat, your liver, gallbladder, it kind of gets sent around all over the place, and from there, you convert pre-vitamin D3 into the active form of vitamin D. Your body needs this to absorb calcium, phosphorus, improve immune function, and reduce inflammation. So you kind of need cholesterol. And I'm sure by now you've already heard there's two types of cholesterol, HDL, LDL. The HDL is the high density lipoprotein, and that's considered the good cholesterol, while the LDL is the low density lipoprotein. That's the bad one, or bad. The HDL is kind of like the cleanup crew. It helps to transport excess cholesterol from your cells and arteries back to the liver to be recycled as bile acids or, downstairs so you can excrete it. This process helps to eliminate the plaque from building up in your arteries, and that's why it's kind of considered heart healthy. Something interesting I did find when I was looking into this some more is that if you do have long-term constipation or issues with your bowel movements, there is a small chance that that could potentially increase your LDL by a little bit. There still are plenty of other factors involved, but I just wanted to throw that in there because it was pretty interesting. So the LDL carries cholesterol from the liver to your cells. If there's too much of it, it kind of just gets left around, and that's where that gunk starts to build up in your arteries, which can cause restricted blood flow, and that's where you get into a lot of these heart-related issues. There's also triglycerides. Those are also stored in your blood, and they're a form of energy. So you can see that you kind of need a balance of both. You need the LDL to bring the cholesterol around, and you need the HDL to help clean up the excess. Now, the main concern everyone has when they talk about high cholesterol is having too high LDL cholesterol, especially in relationship to your HDL. That's where you can start to get into heart disease, which leads to heart attacks, strokes, and inflammation in your arteries. You can also develop metabolic syndrome, which increases the risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And pancreatitis is also related to your triglyceride levels. So there's a lot of reasons why you want to keep your LDL relatively low, especially considering about 48% of the population has some kind of heart disease. And if you've ever had your blood work done, you've probably received a lipid panel, which shows you what's going on in your body. Before we get into a lot more details, yes, you want high HDL, but there is such thing as having too high of an HDL. If your levels are above 100 milligrams per deciliter, you could also develop other cardiovascular issues. But that tends to be more related to specific medical conditions. So most of you probably don't have to worry about that. And while there's a lot of things you can do that will impact your cholesterol levels, there are a few things that could be out of your control. Some populations are known for having higher levels of LDL. It's a little hard to tell if that's 100% just your genes versus the lifestyle choices, the foods around them, and the culture. But there is a genetic condition called familial hypercholesterolemia. Lemia, not sure. That condition raises your LDL levels due to a mutation in your genes. So there's not really much you can do there unless you're like some kind of X-Man or something like that. But now let's get to the good stuff, what I assume most of you are here for, and why I started doing the research into this in the first place. What are the things that raise and lower your HDL levels versus your LDL levels? And remember, we want higher HDL, lower LDL. This is where fiber comes in. If you don't know what fiber is, it's an undigestible carbohydrate within plants. So you eat it and your body doesn't actually absorb anything from it. But there's two kinds, soluble and insoluble. You can think soluble like it dissolves and insoluble, it doesn't dissolve. So kind of like a goo versus something that's a little bit more of like I always just think of leaves. I don't know. So soluble is what's really linked to help lowering your LDL level. It does this by absorbing some of the cholesterol in your gut and binds to the extra bile acids, which allow you to, excrete them out. So as you can imagine, now your overall cholesterol is lower and your liver is going to have to use the excess cholesterol to produce more bile acids. So you're kind of like tricking your body to speed up this process and making sure things don't just sit in you when they don't have to. Think of it like this. So if your body is a Gucci store, the fiber is kind of like these billionaires that just run in and they're like, I want everything on the shelves. Like, give me that. And they just buy it all. I don't think billionaires really do that, but stick with me for now. So they cleared out all your stock. And then now Gucci's like, oh, we need to restock, get whatever else you can out of the warehouse and get it out here because it's going fast. So if you want to help lower your LDL levels, you're going to want more of these metaphorical billionaires. And how do you get them? By eating more fiber. Some good examples there are beans, cruciferous vegetables, root vegetables, avocados, nuts, seeds, fruits, whole grains like oats and barley as well. And I wouldn't stress too much about overeating these because most of us probably aren't eating enough anyway. I think you want about 30 grams of fiber a day from a 2-to-1 ratio. So that's 2 parts insoluble to 1 part soluble. But again, most foods are going to include both. So I wouldn't get too caught up in trying to get one or the other. Just try to eat a varied diet. So what else raises your LDL cholesterol? Saturated fats. So red meat, full fat dairy, coconut oil, palm oil. The only side note I want to add in here is that all of those do have their own health benefits, maybe not the palm oil. So I think the general consensus there is to try to limit those, not so much remove them completely from your diet. And it gets even more complicated when you start talking about the food quality. For instance, the saturated fat content in factory farm raised conventional beef, how we get it from the supermarket, is very different than grass-fed or pasture-raised beef that you may get from more sustainable sources that are a little bit more natural. It's not a huge difference, but some studies do say that you get about 15 to 20% less saturated fat from the grass-fed sources, along with a higher omega-3 fatty acid profile. Acid profile. We're going to get into that soon, but that's some of the good stuff you want. But let's continue on what you should be looking out for. Trans fats, which come from a lot of processed fried foods, and partially hydrogenated oils are definitely on the avoid as much as you can table. There's pretty much zero health benefits, and it's just really like it tastes good. Maybe you like the texture, but besides that, your body's not missing anything by cutting those out. Easier said than done, right? So now let's start easing into some of the good stuff. So fortified foods, margarines, orange juice, some of the like yogurt drinks, contain plant sterols and stanols. Not sure if I'm saying that right, but these basically compete with cholesterol in your body or they block the absorption of it. So it actually helps to lower your LDL levels. But I don't think I would ever really want to tell someone to go out and just start eating margarine. But just so you know, if you are really concerned with your LDL levels, and you eat butter all the time, I guess technically you could switch to margarine. I personally wouldn't do that just because I try to stay away from more of the highly processed fake foods, but I thought you should know. And now the really good stuff. These are the things that are going to raise your HDL level and you want to get a lot more of. So you probably hear a lot of people talk about healthy fats. That's your monosaturated, polysaturated, and your omega-3 fatty acid. You get this from avocados, nuts, olive oil, flax seeds, fatty fish like salmon and mackerel. Side note, the nutrition profile of wild-caught fish is going to be a little bit better than farm-raised. So just something to consider. If your wallets are okay with it, spend a little bit more to get better quality. They're also going to be higher in the omega-3s. And then you've got dietary cholesterol. You find that in a lot of eggs, organ meats, and shellfish. This is one that a lot of people still to this day are pretty afraid of, but a lot of recent studies tend to point in the direction of not having to worry so much about that. Your body doesn't necessarily convert dietary cholesterol the same way it does saturated fats. So just because you had a few egg yolks doesn't mean that all of a sudden your LDL cholesterol is going to go high. If anything, a lot of studies have shown that it starts to increase both levels. So when you compare the two, you kind of end up at a net equal. And this also varies for a lot of people. So one person might have an egg and see no change. One person might have an egg and their cholesterol might go up a bit. So You definitely want to check with your doctor on that. But again, the LDL is our main concern, not just cholesterol in general. And I also want to say this now, it's going to be a recurring theme throughout this video, but you have to think of the holistic approach. Like, step back, what's the big picture? Did you have that egg with avocado and some other veggies, maybe some fruit? Or did you batter and deep fry that egg and then chug the milkshake right after? Like, those two are going to affect your cholesterol levels very differently. So that could be a little overwhelming. There was a lot of food stuff right there. I think the key takeaway is stick to whole foods, eat a lot of fruits and veggies. So if you're not already doing that, or if you're not already just out there looking stuff up, I did recently release a cookbook. There's an omnivore version and a vegan version. And everything in there is focused on whole foods, plenty of veggies, definitely fruits. You're going to get a lot more fiber and a lot less of the ultra processed ingredients that you see in our everyday lives. So you can pick that up if you're looking for some more recipe ideas. The link's on my profile, or visit aboutthismuch.com. So that's enough about food. There are physical things you can do that also impact your cholesterol levels. If you're regularly performing aerobic exercises, that's going to be anything that's going to get your heart rate up for a sustained period, like walking, swimming, jogging, cycling, has shown to improve HDL levels, especially if you're already overweight or live a more sedentary, inactive lifestyle. So you're just going to see bigger results probably quicker than someone who is already a little bit more active. The exercise is also going to improve your liver function, which is going to help how your body manages cholesterol. Weight loss and maintaining a healthy body weight is also linked to better cholesterol levels, which you can get into the chicken or the egg. Is it that losing the weight is what lowered their cholesterol, or is it that the lifestyle that these people are living, which also caused them to lose weight, is what's actually lowering the cholesterol? I think, again, bigger picture, try not to just focus on your LDL or HDL levels. Think more of the entire package. So if you're worried about your cholesterol, don't just avoid that egg for breakfast. If you're going to take a car to work, take the elevator up. You can take the stairs, maybe walk to work. I don't know, like take a break in the middle of the day. These are just things I want you to start thinking about. Being physically active also improves your insulin sensitivity, which can enhance your lipid profile and reduce your triglyceride numbers. And I don't think I should have to say this. It's kind of the advice you get everywhere. But of course, healthy body weight, avoid smoking, and moderate to zero alcohol use. I say that as you can't see it. Good. Never mind. So that was a lot. And I want you to remember that this is where we're at right now. There has been a big history with cholesterol, and a lot of the things that I'm talking about in this video have only actually been talked about within the last 10 or 20 years, which is kind of insane. Like a quick brief overview of the history of cholesterol. The term actually comes from the Greek word chole, which is bile, and steros, which is solid. I think this was because it was initially discovered in bile. And what's also kind of crazy is that ancient Egyptians had some idea that cholesterol and something else was happening in our bodies, and it was related to fat and health. They didn't really know that much about it. Well, actually, I can't even say that. I don't know. Maybe they did. But think about how long ago that was. And then not until 1784 was when cholesterol was first identified in solid forms. That's like a long time from knowing something is kind of there to actually, I don't know if it's the technology, but actually starting to study it. So let's talk a little bit more about where we are today. One of the best things you can do is just go get your lipid profile, talk to your doctor, understand more about what's going on inside of you. But I think nowadays we have more of a holistic approach. So it's catered more to the individual, not just avoid eating cholesterol, because that doesn't work for everyone. Everyone has different lifestyles, different cultures, different foods that are around them. So I think it's best to work with a medical professional to figure out what it is you can actually do to help you with your individual needs. But just remember, a lot of these are going to be lifestyle focused. Diet, weight management, exercise, stress management, your mental health, blood sugar, blood pressure, smoking, alcohol use. All of these have a pretty big impact on your cholesterol levels as well. And who knows what we're going to find out 10, 20, or 30 years from now. So again, get yourself checked. I find it a little weird. The recommendation is to get your blood checked every 4 to 6 years, which sounds like a long time for an adult. A lot can happen in that time. And I think a lot of people at least try to get yearly checkups. So why not do it then? And especially if you do have a medical condition, or especially if you are changing up your diet. I know a lot of people switch to vegan, switch to carnivore, switch to keto. That's going to cause a lot of things to go on in your body. So you want to make sure you're at least keeping an eye on all of these levels so you know if something might be potentially harmful for you years from now. not just today. Remember, I'm just some dude on YouTube trying to just help spread knowledge that I think will benefit a lot of people. I'm not prescribing anything, and I think that this gets a lot more complicated for each person because we're all individuals that are a little different. So again, I'm just going to throw up the recommended cholesterol levels, so you at least have some guidelines to look at to know if this is something that you should be concerned with or if you're already doing a good job. I'm just going to wrap this up for you with a few key takeaways. LDL is bad, so keep it low. HDL is good, so keep it high. And it's not just about those numbers. We want those numbers that way for your overall cardiovascular health. Remember, the goal is heart health, not just to try to get points on some random scorecard. So don't just isolate this down to, I'm not going to eat this or I'm not going to eat that, because again, the holistic approach is the most impactful. Like I said earlier, there's your stress levels, your foods you want to eat more of, a lot more produce that's going to help you get a lot more fiber. You also want a lot of healthy fats, avocados, nuts, seeds, fatty fish. You want to limit saturated fats, avoid trans fats and partially hydrogenated oils. Avoid a sedentary lifestyle. Try to get your heart rate up a couple times a week, daily if you can. That's not only going to help you physically, but mentally as well. Again, consult your doctor if you do have a pre-existing medical condition. This is just more knowledge for you to take into your everyday life. And don't be afraid to do your own research. It could be very easy to just listen to anyone on the internet, but data is always changing. You'll always find data that supports one thing, but also contradicts the other thing. So if I did say anything that might have been incorrect or a little off, throw it in the comments or send me a DM. I can update this because, again, my overall goal is to just help spread this knowledge so everyone can get a little bit healthier. I'm not trying to say my word is law or anything like that. And again, if you want to start making some of these healthier foods that are recommended to get your cholesterol under control, you want to eat a lot more whole foods. Stay away from the processed stuff. So grab my cookbook if you want some help with that. Send me a DM or just start looking up recipes online. So good luck in getting your cholesterol right, or just if you're just kind of a nerd like me and like to just learn more about some of these topics. So peace.